Hello everybody and welcome back to Jake Saucy Stuff once again, and today we're looking at the post-Maiden review of my long-range micro Skyhunter. And don't worry if you're seeing a black screen or some black screen with some text on it. This is just a pre-warning, the same as what I gave the Dart 250, because for a reason I'm going to explain in a bit, or you already found out because you watched the Dart 250 or the co-pilot review videos. Things got a little bit wobbly during this video, and it made me feel a bit ill watching some of it. So, like an epilepsy warning, or if you don't have epilepsy, it may, as I say, I don't have epilepsy, it made me have a headache. So that's just a pre-warning, but we will get into the flying. You will also notice, as I set this off, that there is a lot more no signals and things during this video, and I'll get into explaining that in a moment. That is not the plane's fault, that is this idiot's fault, and we'll get into that in a minute. So, immediately, this is running the same VC400 camera that is on the Dart 250, and if you want to see the video of that in flight, again, it's on the channel, it'll be out by this point. And you can see there's lots more lines on the screen, there's a lot more dropouts. I was accidentally on more than 25 milliwatts, hence the little police car you can see at the bottom of the screen. That was a genuine accident. Trying to set up the camera on this is an absolute bloody nightmare, I'll be completely honest with you. I did for a while have it accidentally on 400 milliwatts, which may allow you to work out what it is, but less than 400 milliwatts, and it literally burnt me out my hands after 2 minutes trying to change it back down from 400 milliwatts. I had to unplug it and leave it and plug it back in again to turn it down again. Clearly I turned it down and then back up by accident. The lines on the screen are going to be caused by one of three things. One, the extra power, as in milliwatts, from the camera. It could be interfering with itself, like the transmitter section could be interfering with the camera, or just in general. So I'm going to, in the next flight, try and knock that down to 25, and that's a right pain in the arse to change the power level on this camera. Or, because again I didn't try the goggles on, my dad was had the goggles on to just test and see what it was like, but the recording box that I use for recording the footage that you can see now was accidentally left in the van, which is of course a big metal shell, and that could be where some of it's coming from. There's some of your sort of slight epilepsy warning going on with that high velocity shaking there. And again, lots of no signals, because it basically only got signal when it was in the open side door of the van, was pointing towards the plane. Or another thing it could very possibly well be is this is a 4S plane. The other plane that it was in was 3S. Could be the extra voltage that it doesn't like. Very, very much a possibility. So, in complete contrast to the Dart 250, of course, which came with its own power setup, this is a T-Motor MN2206 2000 kV 4S on a 6x4 prop, 2-blade, and it's got power for days. It'll go up at a 45-degree angle happily all day until the battery runs out. So it's going to be very good for cloud busting. There were some nice puffy clouds there that I didn't go and tend to that day, because this day was more, because it was a bit too windy for things, more of a testing day. But as you can see, it's very smooth at the moment. I'll go into that more a little bit, but it is a joy to fly, and having the extra power to do height was nice. It did use more battery than expected, so this was a 4S 3000 milliamp lithium ion cell made out of 18650s, and especially considering that this plane does not have an on-screen display. Again, you can check out my review on the co-pilot specifically, or it's technically a podcast episode, but I review the co-pilot in that podcast episode. It's on YouTube, hopefully linked below if I'm a sensible person. It can lure you into sense of security that you could, blast away for a bit too long. I know you have your voltage in the bottom right, but it isn't as easy as counting your milliamps. If you've got 3000 milliamps in the battery, you don't probably want to go below, say, 2.5, 2.6. So if you start bringing it in at 2.4 with room to go around again if needed, then you'll be fine. You can judge depending on how far away when you need to start coming back. Now, the way that this flew, and the way that the co-pilot has been, and the fact I have an SNL light sat around that's very similar to the Copilot, but just has an on-screen display built into it. I'm debating about, because I have another one of these on the shelf that I was going to stick a ridiculous motor on and just pelt about at a daft speed. I'm debating turning that into a proper long-range machine. This one could be my sort of cloudbuster / one in the middle, where it has some speed but also has an on-screen display and return to launch and everything. So having that one, so having this one for cloudbusting, another one for long range, which I'll get back to in a second, and then possibly buy the EPP one from Banggood to see what that is like. But in terms of what I would do with the long range one, depending on how well I get on with the drift that I now have on the shelf, oh Jesus, that's shaky, or the Dart 250 when I move that over to 2S, I might build a 2S Skyhunter and have that possibly running Copilot. Possibly that's what I will use to test the SNL Owl, but again I want to test that relatively quickly and I don't want to build another Skyhunter so quickly. I've just built one because basically all the RC stuff I do lately has been for the channel, and it helps me both get stuff done and get stuff up here for the channel. But yes, so the cloud busting one does worry me slightly in the fact that, you know, if I turn this into cloud busting, if I go above the clouds, going above the clouds is not necessarily the issue. It's when you're going back down through them or going up through them, if there isn't a gap. You need to know that you're going, especially on the climb, you need to make sure you're still level. So an on-screen display with a horizon bar, so you can tell that you're level as you're climbing through what's just a white screen, and know that hopefully eventually you'll get there, as well as also being able to tell your height. So if you do go too high and think this is scary, and I've gone up X amount of meters and not come out the clouds yet. Whereas if you're doing this all through your sort of internal compass, if you like, your VFR instead of IFR, or however you want to pronounce it for real planes, then you can see, you can tell if you're going straight and level through the clouds as opposed to having to go off what your eyes are seeing, because of course you're not moving in the chair. So it's a little bit worrying about that as a cloudbuster plane. Again, while the Copilot system could work for long range, it's just a bit scary without an OSD. And this is again me just floating it around at barely any speed and being very, very impressed with it. This is with a gyro on, I believe, as well. So slow with a gyro on, it just sits there and it's brilliant and fantastic. You see it's got in between the signal brakes there, you can see it was getting a bit of a wobble on again. So yeah, in terms of the Copilot, I do have a full video on that. And also a little bit more sort of feedback on that in the Dart 250 video as well. We can actually see the Copilot being used. Oh, that's clearly manual mode doing the rolls. That was again just to test how much rates it had. Possibly a little bit too much, but not enough to be dangerous like the Dart 250 was. The Dart 250, it's 100% at the minute. It needs dialing down to 50, whereas this, if I was going to dial it down, it'd be like 75. And I have to use the full stick in autopilot at the moment, or in balance mode, to make it turn. So it was good that it was there, but not good for overall. And as you can tell, especially as we get towards the end of the video, I was basically doing just very low power, just sort of floating past myself. And that is a lot of fun. That is a lot of fun. I can already tell that the Copilot is going to stay in stuff that I keep nearby, and then actual long-range stuff is either going to end up with the because I've got to test both of these, either the SNL Owl or this new iNav setup that I'm going to be trying with the Drift. Because I don't want to go distance without an on-screen display. I can just tell watching this footage that no, you're going to end up hunting for an aeroplane that's gone down somewhere. So yeah. Camera, I've got a list of things that I'm reading from, by the way. So camera, again, does have a bit of a fishbowl effect on it, and it does have these lines and breakup, which I think are mostly because of the recording box being in the van. If the lines are there because it's on 4S and this is drawing a lot more amps than what the Dart 250 would be, it kind of rules it out from anything that isn't just a weedy little 2S thing that flirts about, which is a shame, because I've got another one of these that's brand new that's going to go in the AXN, I think, is where that's going to go to test that and see what it's like. just because it seems the most easiest way of getting a camera on that model. But yeah, I didn't actually have the FPV goggles on, if I didn't say that before. My dad was watching to see what it's like. He always does that now on my FPV stuff while I fly it around and trim it and check the autopilot and everything. He stays with the camera on because just to see if it doesn't break up immediately, because you don't want to do a test. I think everything's great and then launch it on FPV, and as soon as you let go of it, the vision goes. So the best thing to do is just to test it on the actual proper Maiden and go from there. Another thing which I'm quite impressed about is I flew this for about 10 minutes and I think it still had about 50% left. So that's still a 20-minute flight. And there was some motoring around. Like, this thing moves places. Is this going to be the longest flight ever in one of these? Probably not. Yeah. In terms of what to do, what I need to do next on this model is, for now, I need to turn down the gyro on the aileron. I also need to see what the camera is like through the goggles and with the recording box outside of the van. In terms of long term, I see this actually having the co-pilot taken out, even though I love the thing. Unless they release an on-screen display for it, the co-pilot is going to be taken out, and either an SNL OWL, if I get on with that, or iNav, again, if I get on with that, will be going in instead. So I've got an on-screen display as well as the long-range Jollop. But for now, I will just fly it as a medium range, to places where I know where that no one's hit me, where I know where I'm going via visual landmarks, with the idea that if it all goes tits up, I do have return to launch. But yeah, I'm going to try and sort the camera out as well as the gyro. Again, it could be just the recording box. It could be that it's on that higher milliwattage. It could be, unfortunately, that it's on because it's on 4S, or that the model's drawing more amps than what the Dart does. If that's the case, then I am going to have to try and squeeze in a proper camera and a proper video transmitter, unless somebody can suggest something better. But just as we go into the second loop of this video, that's more or less all I have to say on the long-range Skyhunter. Very, very pleased with it. Certainly going to enjoy it. Again, whether it stays in this configuration from now on, I'm not 100% sure. We'll see how we get on. I may eventually decide that I want a proper OSD on it, and we might have to swap out the camera and video transmitter. But other than that, super happy. We'll see how we get on. If you enjoyed this video, please click the like button. It helps me out a lot. If you have any questions or comments or anything like that, there's the comment section below. And subscribe if you like this type of Jollop. And I will do more of them. Yes, thank you all for watching. I'll see you all in the next one. Bye bye.